did you realize Synergy meant forced smiles and soul-crushing retreats? I just found out my job is making me go on a mandatory wellness and team synergy retreat this weekend, and honestly, I'd rather have root canal surgery while listening to elevator music. The absolute nerve of these people. I'm Evelyn Johnson, 62, and let me tell you, I have seen some corporate BS in my time, but this takes the soggy, lukewarm cake. I'm sitting here at my desk, apartment 3B, a little after 11:00 p.m. on a Tuesday, trying to pack a duffel bag for 3 days of forced cheerfulness. My iPhone 14 battery is dying at 12% because I've spent the last hour doom-scrolling TikTok and muting Slack notifications. I'm technically retired adjacent, working as a senior consultant, meaning I get paid a lot to tell 20-somethings their ideas are bad, but I still have to pretend to care about synergy. I'm a stubborn idealist, which translates roughly to cranky boomer who secretly believes she can fix everything. Official memo from HR, which I printed out just so I could aggressively highlight the stupid parts, calls this retreat a pivotal opportunity for self-discovery and cross-departmental vulnerability. NGL, the word vulnerability gives me hives, especially when the event is being held at some remote lodge upstate where the Wi-Fi signal is apparently minimal but spiritually enriching. Yeah, okay. I tried to use 2 of my remaining 47 PTO hours to get out of it, citing a sudden, mysterious affliction that only flares up around motivational speakers. But my manager, who's like 30 and drinks only $10 oat milk lattes, just sent back a gif of a motivational eagle. I hate my life. The complication, the real reason I'm dreading 3 days trapped with these people, isn't just the awful team-building exercises. It's the baggage I'm bringing. See, about 5 years ago, I had a medical situation, a really bad one, a surgery that went sideways. I woke up after 10 hours and everything was just wrong. I ended up spending almost 3 weeks in the hospital, and I developed this totally irrational, but very real phobia of medical settings, needles, even the smell of antiseptic wipes. I panic. Full-blown, can't-breathe, chest-tight panic attacks. It's called hospital trauma or something like that, PTSD related to the medical experience. I've been working on it with my therapist, who I should have called instead of packing, but the idea of being far from my usual doctors, far from my apartment, where everything is predictable, is making my hands shake right now. I just wanted to stay home and watch Netflix and eat Talenti gelato. But no, mandatory retreat. So I'm packing, and the first person I have to mentally prepare for is Kyle Reed, 18M. Kyle is the new intern, fresh out of his dual enrollment program, and he is a walking, talking inspirational poster. Toxic positivity pusher is the correct label. He literally glows with artificial enthusiasm. I ran into him earlier today in the kitchen on the 5th floor. I was microwaving my sad leftover chicken from Costco. He was blending a green smoothie in a personal blender he brought to the office. "Evelyn," he chirped, which sounds like a bird hitting a window pane. "Are you ready for the retreat? This is going to be such a vibe shift." I just stared at my plate. "Kyle, I'm 62. The only vibe shift I'm interested in involves shifting the volume down on whatever Gen Z nonsense you're listening to." He didn't miss a beat. He was wearing this absolutely absurd orange polo shirt and those huge AirPods that constantly look like they're about to fall out of his ears. "NGL, I totally get it, but think about the potential. New connections, new insights. We just need to lean into the discomfort. Discomfort is where growth happens. Discomfort is also where I get stuck in a bathroom stall and fake a massive illness to go home," I muttered. He just grinned that blinding, perfect grin. "No negativity, Evelyn. Or manifesting success. Remember, you get what you focus on." I swear I almost told him what I was focusing on right then, which was throwing that plastic smoothie cup across the office. But I just smiled stiffly and walked away. The kid is driving me insane. He just doesn't understand that sometimes things just suck. You don't have to manifest a $43.67 grocery bill to pay it. You just pay it. Anyway, Kyle is bad enough, but the real headache starts with the other attendees. First up, Amanda Gray, 51F. Amanda is the office gossip. She doesn't just spread rumors, she composts them, fertilizes them, and then grows them into a perfectly manicured scandal garden. Her eyes miss nothing. She knows exactly how many vacation days I have left, 2.5. Who got that last promotion? It was definitely Greg, not Maria, and here's why. And she definitely knows about my trauma history, because I made the mistake of mentioning it one time, 2 years ago, when I was explaining why I couldn't attend the blood drive. I saw Amanda today standing by the water cooler, whispering into her Samsung Galaxy phone. And she saw me, she pulled the phone away quickly, but not before I heard her say, "Well, she's going, so that should be interesting, shouldn't it?" I pretended I didn't hear her. I grabbed my reusable water bottle, which I filled with filtered ice water because the tap water in this building tastes like sadness, and walked past. But I know Amanda is already counting the minutes until someone cries during a sharing circle so she can take notes. Then there's Alexis Martinez, 32F. Lexis is technically a coworker, but mostly she's a professional couch surfer. She's supposed to be working remotely from her sister's place in Seattle, but half the time she's actually crashing on someone's futon in the city. She always looks perpetually exhausted, like she hasn't slept properly since 2018. She's creative, smart, but completely unstable. She owes me $20 from when I bought her a Panera salad during that all-hands meeting last month. She sent me a Venmo request for $1 the next day, claiming it was an accounting error. I left it pending. I know the struggle is real. She's always stressed about her $1,247 rent, or lack thereof, but seriously, $20. Alexis texted me earlier around 5:30 p.m. right after the retreat email dropped. "Alexis, hey queen, you going to the torture session upstate? NGL, I kinda need the free food. My fridge is only ketchup and existential dread. Me, yes, Alexis, it's mandatory. Try not to use the word torture around Kyle. He might try to manifest the pain away. Alexis, LOL, I heard we have to do trust falls. I am dropping Amanda. Me, please don't. We need her for the gossip. Alexis, TBH, I am more worried about Cheryl Reed being there. And this is where the real stress kicks in. Cheryl Reed, 63F. Cheryl is the head of compliance, which means she enjoys telling people they are wrong and then citing arcane policy manuals. She is also, unfortunately, Kyle's mother. And she is one of those people who believes the world started going downhill the second anyone born after 1980 decided they could have opinions about gender, politics, or fashion. She's a piece of work. I don't interact with Cheryl much, but I know she's judgmental. We're in a staff meeting 2 weeks ago, and one of the new designers, who uses they/them pronouns, was presenting a deck. I remember the designer was wearing a cool vintage band tee. During the Q&A, Cheryl literally leaned into her mic and said, with that perfect compliance tone, "Now, regarding this fluid aesthetic in the presentation, are we certain this resonates with our core demographics?" It was a total, thinly veiled microaggression. She's transphobic, not even subtly. She definitely doesn't like me because I called her out once in a Zoom chat by responding with, "Cheryl, I think the aesthetic is fine. Perhaps we should focus on the actual marketing data." The text from Alexis about Cheryl being there made me physically tense up. I hate conflict, especially when I am already stressed about the trauma thing. The last thing I need is to be trapped in a rustic cabin 3 hours from civilization with the human equivalent of a passive-aggressive parking ticket. I'm packing my emergency supplies now. Not just clothes, but my coping mechanisms. I have the noise-canceling headphones, 3 different audiobooks, enough Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey for a week in case they have a freezer, and a detailed escape route mapped out on Google Maps. I even have a copy of the official itinerary where Friday includes something called Guided Breathwork for Inner Child Healing. I'd rather drink drain cleaner. I looked at the packing list. Hiking boots, flashlight, comfortable attire for movement activities. I just want to burn the list. I'm thinking about the logistics. We have to meet in the lobby at 7:00 a.m. sharp tomorrow for the charter bus. I was supposed to split an Uber with Alexis, but she just texted me again. "Alexis, hey, so update. The person I was staying with needed their couch back, and I crashed at my friend's place outside the city. My beat-up Toyota Corolla needs gas, and I have $8. You sell me $50? I'll pay you back Monday, promise. Also, my phone died and the charger is broken, and I have 47 unanswered texts. Me, Alexis, it's 11:30 p.m. Call me tomorrow morning." And no, she didn't respond, but I saw the read receipt pop up immediately. Typical. I guess I'll be taking the subway to the office tomorrow morning, which means waking up at 5:45 a.m. I was laying out my clothes, a truly depressing pile of beige and gray because I'm 62 and I dress for comfort, not vibe shifts. I got a FaceTime call from my sister. I declined it. Too emotional, I'll take a text. Sure enough, she sent a text right away. "Sister, did you hear about Mom?" My stomach dropped. "My mother, who is 85 and lives in Westfield, has been a bit frail lately." "Hear what?" I typed back, heart beginning to pound a rhythm against my ribs. "Sister, they took her to the hospital. Tuesday, around 11:47 a.m. She had a bad fall. She's stable now, but she's going to need a few days of observation." The text was simple, factual, but reading the word hospital made my vision swim a little. I had to grip the edge of my desk. My hands started shaking, worse than they were before. It's like a trigger. Clinical setting, the smell, the bright lights, the feeling of being strapped in and helpless. It all rushed back, flooding my brain with that terrible, cold dread. This is the exact scenario I've been trying to avoid for 5 years. The need to go there, to be in that building. I have been so careful, so dedicated to avoiding this trigger. I immediately wanted to bolt to Westfield, but I have this mandatory retreat tomorrow, 3 hours away. And I can't just skip it. I'm a senior consultant and skipping looks bad, especially in front of compliance queen Cheryl. I'm a stubborn idealist, remember? I'm supposed to show up and perform. I tried to rationalize. Mom is stable. She's fine. I don't have to go right now. I can go Friday night or Saturday. But the panic was already escalating. My chest was tight. I felt dizzy, like the room was tilting. I texted my sister back, trying to sound calm, which was impossible because I was shaking so hard I kept hitting the wrong keys. "Me, which hospital? Is she okay, really? I have this stupid retreat thing." "Sister, she's at St. Jude's downtown." "She's okay, Evelyn. Go to your retreat. She wouldn't want you to ruin your career over this." "Ruin my career? LOL. I haven't had a career to ruin since 2017. I know she's right about Mom not wanting me to worry, but I also knew if I went 3 hours upstate and something happened, I would never forgive myself. I paced my small apartment, which I only keep because the lease is in my name, otherwise I'd move to something cheaper. I looked at the packed duffel bag, ready for corporate delusion. I looked at the text about my mother, now just a notification on my cracked phone screen. I felt rage, pure and simple. Rage at the company for making this retreat mandatory, rage at the universe for dropping this emergency on my head the night before, and rage at myself for being so easily triggered by a simple hospital name. I sat down at my desk and pulled up my company email. I started typing an email to my manager, citing the emergency, demanding to stay. I was halfway through composing a truly magnificent, passive-aggressive email about family commitment, trumping team synergy, when my phone rang. It was Kyle, the toxic positivity pusher, at 11:45 p.m. I almost ignored it, but I needed to know why this kid was calling me. "Hello?" I snapped, my voice sounding strained. "Evelyn, hey, I know it's late, but I was just calling to check in," Kyle said, his voice sickeningly cheerful like he was delivering a commercial for sunshine. "Kyle, I am not manifesting anything right now, and I am certainly not in the mood for a vibe shift. What do you want?" "Oh no, nothing like that," he insisted. "I just heard a rumor from Amanda. Actually, she was talking to my mom, Cheryl, and she mentioned your personal history with medical facilities." My entire body went cold. Amanda, gossip, of course. What about it, Kyle? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Well, my mom and I were talking, and she mentioned that this retreat is really remote. Like really remote, and there's not a big hospital nearby. She said that based on your history, if you had a panic attack or needed medical attention, it would take at least 45 minutes to get to the nearest ER. He paused, clearly waiting for me to acknowledge his concern. And your point is? Well, Evelyn, Kyle continued, the toxic positivity thickening in his voice, my mom, Cheryl, 63F, she just wanted me to make sure you felt secure about this, you know? She was worried about the liability. Liability, not my health. Liability? Cheryl, the transphobic family member and compliance queen, was worried about the company being sued if I went into anaphylactic shock because of the kale smoothies. Kyle, that is frankly none of your or your mother's business, I managed to say, my jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. And GL, I totally get that, he chirped, utterly unbothered. But she also mentioned something about a form you filled out 5 years ago after your extended absence. Something about emotional fragility being noted in your HR file. She said if you missed the retreat, it might look like you were using that trauma as an excuse to avoid professional development. My heart pounded, but now it wasn't fear, it was pure, molten rage. They were weaponizing my trauma. Cheryl was using her access to compliance files to pressure me into going on this mandatory trip, effectively saying, if you don't show up, we will paint you as too unstable to handle your job. Now I had my mother in the hospital, the ultimate trigger. I took a deep breath, trying to control the shaking, trying to focus on what I needed to do. I had an email ready to send demanding to stay home. I had a sick mother downtown. I had a history of panic attacks related to medical settings, and I had 2 corporate vultures trying to force me onto a bus 3 hours away, citing emotional fragility. Kyle, I said, my voice quiet, tell your mother that I am looking forward to seeing her and you on the bus tomorrow morning. I wouldn't miss this pivotal opportunity for the world. I hung up before he could manifest another positive thought. I deleted the email draft. I stood up, walked to my packed duffel bag, and shoved the survival gear back into the closet. I felt numb but completely wired. The idea of running away, of quitting, of hiding under the duvet was overwhelming. But I'm Evelyn Johnson, a stubborn idealist, and now I was mad. I looked at the corporate itinerary one last time. Saturday afternoon, open discussion breaking down barriers and finding authenticity. Oh, they want authenticity? They want barriers broken down? Fine. I will give them authenticity. I will give them the unfiltered 62-year-old version of reality. I grabbed my car keys for my 2018 Honda Civic, which currently has a check engine light on, but whatever. I'm driving myself to the retreat, not taking the bus. I need the escape route. Before I could walk out the door, I got one final text. It was from Kyle again. Kyle, hey, Mom also said to remind you to pack extra layers because the lodge is up in the mountains and it gets really cold at night. See you bright and early? Get some rest, the audacity. I walked out of my apartment at 1:00 a.m., getting into my car. Put the coordinates for the retreat lodge into my navigation, knowing that tomorrow, trapped in the remote wilderness, I would have to choose between protecting myself from my crippling trauma or dealing with a corporate emergency that might end up costing me my job, or maybe both. I was heading toward 3 days of corporate hell, leaving my mother just blocks away from my biggest fear. I had to decide which problem to solve first. The anxiety was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest. As I drove out of the city, my phone beeped. It wasn't Alexis asking for money or Kyle spreading cheer. It was my sister texting the details about Mom. Sister just spoke to the nurse at St. Jude's. She needs a few tests, MRI, maybe a CT scan. They want to check for any internal bleeding. The doctors are concerned because of her age, Evelyn. It's serious, call me when you get this. I pulled over to the shoulder of the road, the streetlights blurring through my tears. MRI, CT scan, internal bleeding, hospital. It was all spiraling. I was literally shaking again, unable to breathe properly. How the hell was I supposed to go on a wellness retreat 3 hours away knowing this? Knowing that if I got called, I'd have to rush back into the exact situation that destroyed me 5 years ago? I turned off the car engine. I looked at the dark highway ahead of me. I felt the panic swelling, threatening to consume me entirely. Had a choice, drive to the retreat and pretend to be fine for my job, or drive straight to St. Jude's and face my deepest fear for my mother. I felt the sudden, desperate need to talk to anyone to ask them what I should do. I pulled out my phone intending to call my therapist, but I saw one last message waiting for me. It was from Alexis. Alexis, wait, my mom just called me. She saw Cheryl's post on Facebook. She said Cheryl is bringing her sister to the retreat, not Amanda. Sister, remember her sister? The one who is a doctor? They booked her as a guest speaker on mental resilience. I stared at the text. A doctor from a major city hospital, coming to the remote retreat. And that was when I started to feel the true terror of what tomorrow held. I pulled over to the shoulder of the road, the streetlights blurring through my tears. MRI, CT scan, internal bleeding, hospital. It was all spiraling. I was literally shaking again, unable to breathe properly. How the hell was I supposed to go on a wellness retreat 3 hours away knowing this? Knowing that if I got called, I'd have to rush back into the exact situation that destroyed me 5 years ago? I had a choice. Drive to the retreat and pretend to be fine for my job, or drive straight to St. Jude's and face my deepest fear for my mother. I stared at Alexis' final text. Alexis, wait, my mom just called me. I saw Cheryl's post on Facebook. She said Cheryl is bringing her sister to the retreat, not Amanda, her sister. Remember her sister? The one who is a doctor? They booked her as a guest speaker on mental resilience. A doctor brought by Cheryl. This wasn't just a compliance issue. This was Cheryl weaponizing her family ties to control the entire environment. It wasn't just worried about liability. She was ensuring that if I had a panic attack, there was a medical professional, who she probably trusted implicitly, there to handle the liability. Which meant I would be forced into a medical interaction with someone who was essentially on Team Cheryl. My panic reached critical mass. I felt the dry heaves start. My chest was burning. But beneath the terror, a slow, cold burn of righteous fury began. We're trying to manage my trauma like it was a quarterly budget report. I started the Honda Civic again. I did not turn toward St. Jude's. I kept driving toward the remote coordinates. Why? Because I'm a stubborn idiot, and because if I went to St. Jude's now, I would fall apart completely, and then Cheryl would win. I would be confirming their assessment, too emotionally fragile for professional development. I decided I was going to the retreat, but I was not going for synergy. I was going for conflict. So it's been about 4 hours since I pulled over on the shoulder. It's 5:00 a.m. now. I'm sitting in the nearly empty parking lot of this rustic lodge, the Whispering Pines Sanctuary. It looks less like a sanctuary and more like a set for a low-budget horror movie. It's dark and cold and the air smells like pine needles and existential dread. I've been stress texting my sister since 2:00 a.m. Me. Give me detailed updates every hour. No exceptions. Do not minimize anything. If mom needs me, I am coming back immediately. I have my car. Sister, Evelyn, she's resting. Stop punishing yourself. She's fine. Why did you drive all the way up there, me? Because if I don't, I let Cheryl win. Also, tell me everything the doctors say. Specific words. Sister, okay. The doctor on call, Dr. Ramirez, said they need the imaging results before they know the next steps. Internal bleeding is a concern, but her vitals are stable. Promise. I felt marginally better, having facts instead of just the word hospital. Facts I could compartmentalize. I finally got out of the car around 6:30 a.m. The charter bus was already pulling up, a massive, gleaming white vehicle that looked entirely out of place against the backdrop of mossy, dark wood. Bus doors hissed open, and the first person to step off, radiating manufactured joy, was Kyle Reed, 18M. He was wearing a neon yellow North Face vest and carrying a guitar case. Of course. He spotted me immediately, leaning against my Civic looking like a disgruntled gargoyle. Evelyn, NGL, I was worried you weren't going to make it. He chirped, running over. I straightened up. I looked him dead in the eye. I didn't shake his hand. Kyle, told your mother I wouldn't miss this pivotal opportunity. And thank you for the concern about liability, but I assure you my personal medical history is now completely irrelevant to the success of this synergy exercise. My primary focus today is on professional development and robust interdepartmental conflict. He blinked. His blinding smile flickered slightly. Right on, that's the attitude. Leaning into the discomfort. No, Kyle, leaning into the conflict. There's a difference. Watched as the other corporate drones filed off the bus. Amanda Gray, 51F, the gossip queen, was immediately hovering around Cheryl Reed, 63F, who was wearing a perfectly pressed navy fleece and looked like she was conducting an inspection of the facility. Then came Alexis Martinez, 32F. She looked terrible. She was carrying a massive duct-tape backpack and yawning so wide I could practically see her tonsils. Evelyn, thank God, she whispered, grabbing my arm. Do you see that text? A doctor? Cheryl is bringing a doctor to this wellness retreat. This is peak corporate paranoia. I know, Alexis. Don't worry about the $20 you owe me. Worry about the systemic weaponization of trauma and the potential medical surveillance. TBH, I'm worried about both. Did you have any cash for gas, though? My Corolla died right before I hit the highway and I had to beg a ride from the bus driver. You took the bus? I thought you were outside the city. Long story. The friend's place didn't have hot water, so I went to a different friend, but then they had a cat and I'm allergic, so I ended up crashing on a park bench near the subway. Alexis is a mess. A talented, highly intelligent mess. We were corralled into a main hall. It looked like a barn, but with expensive, ergonomic chairs and a giant projector screen displaying the retreat logo, a watercolor painting of two hands gently holding a small, stylized leaf. GL, it made me want to vomit. Cheryl, of course, was already conferring with the organizer. I saw the doctor standing a little bit apart, scrolling through her phone. She looked professional, maybe early 50s, wearing sensible outdoor gear but with very alert, clinical eyes. Bingo, Dr. Cheryl's sister. The first session was Icebreaker, the 2 truths and a lie of professional success. I opted to stand in the back near the lukewarm coffee dispenser, and it was Kyle's turn. He stood up, absolutely glowing. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle, 18, and I'm manifesting the most productive week ever. My 3 statements are: 1, I meditate for an hour every morning. 2, I once successfully crowdsourced $5,000 for a dog charity. 3, I have never experienced a negative thought. Everyone chuckled weakly except me and Cheryl, who was giving Kyle a proud, creepy mom smile. Alexis went next. She looked around, clearly sleep-deprived. Alexis, 32. My statements are: 1, I currently owe 5 people money. 2, I own a total of 3 pairs of socks. 3, I think this retreat is an essential tool for my future growth. The lie was obviously number 3, but Amanda Gray, standing right next to her, whispered loudly, it's the socks. She's lying about the socks. No one has only 3 pairs. I mentally slapped Amanda. Alexis just gave a tired shrug. And they got to me. I walked to the front, holding my styrofoam coffee cup like a weapon. I am Evelyn Johnson. I'm 62. My 3 statements are: 1, I had a full-blown panic attack 3 hours ago because my mother is in the ICU. I lied about the ICU part. She was stable, but I needed impact. 2, I was pressured to attend this retreat by compliance using my medical history against me. 3, I genuinely believe that this guided breathwork for inner child healing session will solve all my problems. Silence. Crickets chirping loudly in the pine forest outside. Kyle, bless his oblivious heart, was the first to speak. Ooh, I think the lie is number 1, Evelyn, because you look totally calm now. You totally manifested the fear away. I sighed. Kyle, I assure you I am not calm. I just chose to confront my current existential dread rather than suppress it. Amanda Gray was frantically writing something in a small notebook she pulled out of her pocket. Cheryl was staring at me, her mouth pressed into a thin, white line of fury. Ms. Johnson, Cheryl said, her voice dangerously even. I think we should perhaps keep the truths related to professional success and synergy as outlined in the HR brief. Oh, but I am Cheryl. because the lack of professional success is often derived from the inability to be authentic, which this retreat is ostensibly about. My professional ability to focus is severely compromised by the fact that certain senior staff members are using my legally protected medical history to manipulate my compliance. That seems highly relevant to Synergy, actually. The lie, by the way, is number 3. I'd rather drink drain cleaner than participate in inner child healing. Cheryl turned purple. I felt a small, vindictive thrill. I had given them authenticity. The day did not get better. Dr. Sandra Hughes, Cheryl's sister, gave her mental resilience presentation right after lunch. She was smooth, professional, and talked about optimizing emotional health like it was optimizing software, all while I was getting nervous text updates from my sister. Sister, 1:30 p.m., they moved her for the CT scan. Took about an hour. Haven't heard results yet. Waiting game now. Dr. Hughes was talking about how successful individuals manage unexpected stress using cognitive reframing. Instead of thinking, I'm stuck and overwhelmed, we must reframe that to, I am in a challenging situation that is offering me an opportunity for growth, Dr. Hughes said, beaming at the room. I looked at Kyle, who was nodding vigorously. I looked at Cheryl, who was nodding even more vigorously. I felt my hand shaking under the table. I couldn't take it anymore. I raised my hand. Dr. Hughes looked surprised. Yes, Evelyn. Dr. Hughes, with all due respect, I'm curious about your professional opinion on PTSD related to hospital trauma. Specifically, when a patient exhibits acute anxiety, heart palpitations, and severe avoidance behaviors related to medical settings, and is then placed 3 hours away from their vulnerable, hospitalized mother, thereby compounding the trauma and forcing a conflict between self-preservation and filial duty. Does cognitive reframing cover the resulting panic attack, or would you recommend professional medical intervention? Cheryl's eyes narrowed into slits. The room went silent again. Dr. Hughes maintained her professional smile, but it was strained. That sounds like a very specific and challenging hypothetical scenario, Evelyn. However, speaking generally, those symptoms require careful, sustained therapeutic attention. One must always prioritize self-care and professional obligations equally, finding balance, of course. Balance. So you're saying that the professional obligation to attend this mandatory retreat outweighs the potential for acute psychological distress caused by the situation, especially when senior leadership is using confidential medical history to enforce compliance. I just saw the immediate flash of panic in Dr. Hughes' eyes. She looked straight at Cheryl, who immediately started clearing her throat very loudly. Evelyn, Cheryl interjected, standing up. I think that's an excellent point to shift gears to our next planned activity, Trust Falls. Trust Falls. Of course, I didn't participate in the Trust Falls. I used the excuse of having a sudden, severe allergy to forced vulnerability. Instead, I went back to the lodge and sat in the main foyer, furiously scrolling for updates on my mom, feeling like I was going to combust. 2 hours later, after the Trust Falls concluded with only minimal injury, Amanda Gray almost dropped Alexis, but Alexis, bless her, managed to twist out of the fall and land on her own feet, giving Amanda major side-eye. I got a text from my sister. Sister, 4:30 p.m. The CT scan is back. Bad news, Evelyn. There's some internal bleeding. Not life-threatening yet, but they need to do surgery immediately to stop it. They are prepping her now. My world tilted. Surgery, the word that had haunted me for 5 years. The bright lights, the antiseptic, the loss of control. It was happening to my mother now. I stood up so fast the cheap chair clattered behind me. I had to go. Now, I found my manager, the oat milk latte 30-something, trying to set up a bonfire for the evening's storytelling session. I'm leaving, I stated, not asking. My mother's going into emergency surgery. I need to be at St. Jude's. My manager, whose name is Bryce, looked genuinely distraught. Evelyn, that is awful. But the schedule, we have the closing ceremony tomorrow morning. Can't you drive back late tonight? No, Bryce, I have to go now. And by the way, tell Cheryl that her attempts to intimidate me using my HR file failed. I'm leaving, and I'm not using PTO. I'm using sick leave, and if she tries to write me up for emotional fragility, I will call HR, legal, and the EEOC faster than she can cite the compliance manual. Bryce just stared at me. I understood nothing after surgery, but go, just text me when you know more. I almost laughed. I just needed that permission. I walked back to my Honda Civic, grabbing my keys. I was shaking badly again, but this time, the shaking was adrenaline mixed with sheer terror. Put the coordinates for St. Jude's into the navigation. 3 hours. As I was pulling out of the parking lot, I saw Kyle and Alexis standing near the woodpile. Kyle was looking earnest. Alexis looked like she needed another 100 hours of sleep. I stopped the car, rolled down the window. Alexis, I'm leaving, emergency surgery. Mom. Alexis's tired face crumpled. Oh my God, Evelyn, be careful, and remember St. Jude's is intense. That's where my friend's grandma had that thing. No, I said, gripping the wheel. It's my biggest fear. Kyle leaned down, his neon yellow vest blinding in the fading light. Evelyn, wait, don't go, you need to stay centered, just breathe. Remember what Dr. Hughes said, cognitive reframing, you can reframe the emergency. I snapped. I looked at this child, this avatar of privileged, simplistic optimism, and I wanted to scream. But screaming wouldn't help. Kyle, I said, my voice low and dangerous. I need you to listen to me carefully. Right now, I am experiencing genuine, acute, life-altering fear related to a past trauma and a current life-and-death situation. This is not a mindset. This is a chemical reaction. Your toxic positivity is not only unhelpful, it is actively dismissive of real pain. You do not get to put a glitter filter over tragedy. Sometimes, Kyle, things just suck. And the only appropriate response is to suck it up, deal with the suck, and survive. I paused, letting that sink in. You're my age, and you have survived something truly terrible. You will understand that sometimes, the only way forward is through the absolute absence of a good vibe. Now I have to go. And if I see you manifesting another positive thought, I will personally manifest a flat tire on your way home. I slammed the accelerator, spitting gravel onto the pine needles, and started the 3-hour drive downtown. So it's been 2 days since that confrontation. I drove 3 hours straight, white-knuckling the steering wheel, trying to regulate my breathing while the word surgery screamed in my head. The smell. Oh God, the smell. As soon as I walked into St. Jude's, that sterile, metallic smell hit me, and the panic attack I had been repressing for 48 hours hit full force. Bright fluorescent lights, the muffled PA announcements, the plastic sheen on the floor. It all brought back the memory of waking up from my own messed-up surgery, confused and strapped down and in agony. I literally had to stop by the elevator and lean against the wall, dry heaving again. My sister rushed over, recognizing the signs instantly. "Evelyn, breathe, just focus on my voice. Mom is okay, she's in recovery, the surgery was successful." She pushed me toward an empty bench in a remote waiting area, away from the nurse's station. I spent the next 2 hours huddled there, alternating between checking my sister's face for hidden bad news and fighting off the crushing dread that I was trapped in this sterile nightmare. But here's the thing about a true emergency, it forces you to prioritize. My mother was alive. She was weak, but stable. I had to be there for her, even if it meant feeling like I was peeling off my own skin every time a doctor in scrubs walked past. I stayed the night in a hotel across the street, just close enough to feel present, but far enough from the antiseptic smell. The next morning, Saturday, the day everyone at the lodge was probably having their authenticity circle, I went back to the hospital. Mom was in post-op recovery. She looked tiny and frail, but she was awake. I was sitting there trying to talk to her about the weather, anything but the hospital walls, when my phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Kyle, the toxic positivity pusher. I almost declined it, but I figured I needed to know what disaster I had missed back at the retreat. "Hello, Kyle," I said, my voice flat. "Evelyn, NGL, I know you said I was pushing toxic positivity, and I've been doing some serious self-reflection on that, and I think you might be right," he whispered. Sounded deflated, I was shocked. "You think I might be right?" "Well, yeah. After you left, the atmosphere was like totally messed up." Cheryl was pissed. She stood up during the authenticity circle and started reading the compliance manual about unauthorized early departures. She tried to get Dr. Hughes, her sister, to officially document your departure as instability due to emotional fragility to build a file for HR. I gripped the phone tighter. And what did the doctor say? Dr. Hughes looked really uncomfortable. She said, and I quote, "Cheryl, I am an ER doctor, not a corporate psychologist. And frankly, Evelyn's scenario sounds like a profoundly valid stress response, not instability. If her mother is in emergency surgery, her priority should be with her family, not corporate synergy." I blinked. Dr. Hughes defended me against her own sister. Then, Kyle continued, and now his voice had a strange, slightly breathless excitement that wasn't toxic positivity, but genuine adrenaline. Cheryl started yelling at Dr. Hughes, saying she was being unprofessional and undermining her authority. And then Alexis stepped in. Alexis 32F stood up, and I mean she looked like she hadn't slept in a month, but she was on fire. What did Alexis say? Alexis said, "Cheryl, TBH, you are the most inauthentic person here. You are actively using corporate policy to bully a colleague who is experiencing a medical crisis, all because you're mad about some comments she made about your transphobic behavior 2 weeks ago. You are a compliance monster. And NGL, I hope Evelyn sues your expensive Lululemon pants off." I laughed. A real, genuine laugh, which felt completely foreign in this place. Then Amanda Gray, 51F, the gossip queen, stood up and said, "Actually, compliance queen Alexis is right. I've been taking notes, and I have documentation of at least 6 instances where you used your position to spread negative assumptions about people's personal lives. I'm forwarding all of this to HR because, frankly, your toxic environment is exhausting my ability to gather reliable content." She totally betrayed Cheryl. It was epic. Amanda betrayed Cheryl. Couldn't believe it. Yeah, the whole circle broke down. Cheryl screamed that Amanda was a rumor monger and that Alexis was a lazy couchsurfing liability, and Alexis just said, "At least I'm not a bigot, Cheryl." Then Cheryl stormed out, followed by Dr. Hughes, who looked completely mortified. The retreat ended like 4 hours early. We all packed up and left on the bus. No synergy, just corporate trauma. It was beautiful. Wow, I breathed. So much for the pivotal opportunity. "GL, I realized something, Evelyn," Kyle whispered. "When I saw you shaking and terrified, and you told me that sometimes things just suck, I finally got it. Because watching my mom lose her mind and yell at people was not a growth opportunity. It just sucked. And for the first time, I felt something that wasn't positive, and I realized maybe I'm not supposed to manifest away the reality. Maybe I just need to be real." I leaned back against the hard plastic hospital chair. "Oh, that is genuinely the most authentic thing you've ever said to me." "Yeah, so I just wanted to tell you don't worry about work. Cheryl has bigger problems now. HR is probably already dealing with the fallout of that meltdown. And my mom also said I should ask you about your degree. She said you were studying something like environmental law." "What? How did she know that?" "Amanda probably. Anyway, she said if you completed your degree, it would give you better leverage. I said a degree means compliance can't claim you're emotionally fragile or professionally inadequate." I had completely forgotten about my degree. Back during my long, traumatic recovery 5 years ago, I enrolled in an online program, mostly as a distraction, studying environmental science with a focus on policy. I was 2 credits short of a bachelor's degree. I hadn't touched the coursework in 3 years. "Kyle," I said slowly, "I appreciate the update. Your sudden burst of non-toxic honesty. Now go get some rest." I hung up, staring at my mother's quiet, sleeping face. A week went by where I was primarily located either in the hospital waiting room or in the hotel across the street. Mom was recovering well, thank God. Every hour that passed outside of the operating room made the fear recede slightly. I was still jumpy, still hated the smell, but the immediate crisis forced me past the worst of the avoidance. During this week, I got constant texts. Alexis, 32F, kept sending me ridiculous memes about compliance officers and asking if I needed anything, though she still hadn't paid me the $20. Amanda 51F kept sending me breathless updates on Cheryl's downfall. Amanda Tuesday 10:00 a.m. Update. Cheryl has been temporarily reassigned pending a full HR investigation. I gave them everything. The documentation of your trauma being used? Gold. Transphobic comments? Platinum. Her job is toast, Evelyn. And Alexis is a legend, NGL. I felt a small wave of satisfaction. Vengeance wasn't mine, it was Amanda's, and it was glorious. I realized I didn't need to fear the job or Cheryl anymore. They had tried to trap me, and in doing so, they triggered a chain reaction that took them out. My status as a senior consultant was irrelevant now. I had walked away from the retreat mid-schedule and nothing had happened. Tuesday, I was able to talk to Mom about her recovery. She was grumpy, which was a good sign. Evelyn, why are you still lurking around here? Go back to work, she said, weakly waving her hand. Mom, I'm staying until you're discharged. Nonsense. And stop looking at the monitors. You look like you're having a breakdown. She was right. I still felt on edge. The hospital environment was still a massive trigger. I realized that facing the fear for my mother hadn't cured the trauma. It had just given me a massive surge of adrenaline to push through it. The PTSD was still very much there, humming under the surface. I needed an escape hatch, a new plan. I remembered what Kyle had said about the degree, environmental policy. I was 62. Did I really need a degree? No, but it wasn't about the job anymore. It was about leveraging my position and securing a truly independent future, one that couldn't be controlled by compliance queens and corporate policies. And honestly, it was about proving to myself I could finish something. 3 days after Mom stabilized, I checked out of the hotel. I drove home to apartment 3B, ignoring the pile of work emails waiting for me. I opened my laptop and pulled up the student portal for the online university. 2 credits short. One final thesis project. I had 3 weeks before the official final submission deadline for the semester. I called the advising office. I explained my ancient, half-finished project. It was a comparative analysis of municipal water purity standards in suburban versus urban areas. Boring, but doable. You can finish it, Ms. Johnson, the advisor said cheerfully. You just need to submit the final draft and get a B or higher to graduate. I hung up. I pulled the old, dusty files. Spent the next 72 hours fueling myself entirely on lukewarm coffee, Talenti gelato, and pure spite. I felt like I was back in college, except this time, the stakes were my mental health and future freedom. I texted Alexis and asked her if she still needed a place to crash, provided she paid back the $20 and committed to 7 hours of study companionship every day. Alexis, Friday 9:00 p.m. TBH, yes. I have $12 and a truly excellent idea for your bibliography formatting. I'll pay you back Monday, promise. I'll be there in 30. I didn't believe her about the $20, but I needed the distraction. Alexis showed up 45 minutes later with a suitcase, 3 reusable grocery bags of clothes, and miraculously, a box of artisanal donuts. She also brought her laptop and sat across from me at my dining room table, immediately pulling up my 2018 data spreadsheets. We worked for 2 solid weeks. I provided the structure and the academic rigor. Alexis provided the frenetic energy and the surprisingly effective late-night research skills. She managed to find 3 incredibly current case studies that bolstered my argument about urban municipal standards, basically treated the thesis like an urgent corporate project, complete with all caps texts about misplaced data points. During that time, Kyle started texting me occasionally, completely changing his tune. Kyle Monday 4:00 p.m. Hey Evelyn, just wanted to check in. Mom is having a meltdown about the HR investigation. She keeps saying that I should have manifested a better outcome. I told her, NGL, maybe she should try manifesting a lawyer. You were right. Just sucks. Me, that's growth, Kyle. Good job. Kyle Wednesday 7:00 p.m. Alexis told me you are working on your degree. That is a truly great vibe. I am rooting for you, not toxically, just genuinely. I smiled at my phone. The kid was actually developing empathy. It was slow, painful, and messy, but it was happening. I submitted the thesis 2 days before the absolute deadline. I felt a rush of exhaustion and relief so profound I almost cried into my keyboard. Final 2 weeks before the grade came in were agonizing. Mom was discharged and was recovering at home, demanding my sister bring her only the good, expensive imported tea. I went back to work, virtually doing the bare minimum. I saw Cheryl's name had been completely scrubbed from the compliance directory. Amanda texted me with the final word on Cheryl. Amanda, Friday 2:30 p.m. They offered Cheryl a severance package contingent on an NDA. She took it. She's gone. Her sister, Dr. Hughes, is apparently furious at her and is refusing to speak to her. Justice. I finally responded to Amanda. Me. Thank you, Amanda. You are an agent of chaos and I appreciate your dedication to the truth. Amanda, TBH, the truth is just more interesting than the lies, Evelyn. The irony was that my trauma had been the catalyst for corporate reckoning, all thanks to my enemy trying to weaponize it. Then came the day. The grade notification popped up in my email. My hands were shaking, honestly worse than they had been in the hospital lobby. This felt like the final validation. I clicked the link. Environmental policy thesis final grade. A, I got it. I finished. I immediately called my sister. Then I called my therapist, who was very pleased that I had managed to prioritize a 3-hour drive toward my greatest fear for my mother, and then channeled my resulting rage into completing a long-dormant academic pursuit. You faced the trauma head-on, Evelyn, even though it was terrifying, and you channeled the anger into a productive, self-actualizing goal. That's massive progress, my therapist said. I didn't feel massive progress. I felt tired, but I also felt secure. Update, it's been 6 weeks since the retreat disaster. I'm Evelyn Johnson, 62, and I have a bachelor's degree in environmental science. I updated my LinkedIn profile immediately. I didn't quit my consulting job immediately. Didn't have to, I just started setting boundaries. Huge, beautiful, impenetrable boundaries. When Bryce asked me to join an optional happy hour, I responded, NGL, no, I'm busy, I'll send an email. I also used my new degree to leverage a part-time position with a local NGO focused on water quality. It's barely any money, but it's interesting work, and I can do it entirely remotely. I saw Kyle in the office cafeteria last week. He didn't even mention manifesting. Just offered me half of his artisanal sandwich and said, congrats on the degree, Evelyn, that's really cool. I smiled genuinely. Thanks, Kyle, that is a genuinely decent sandwich. Alexis finally paid me the $20, Venmo'd it with a little note, for the research assistants. TBH, you're the best. She also found a small, cheap apartment in Queens that isn't a couch. She's still a mess, but she's a mess with her own lease. My mom is doing great. I still visit her, and I still get jittery in the presence of medical professionals, but I found I can sit in the waiting room at her cardiologist's office without completely dissociating. It sucks, but I survive the suck now. The trauma hasn't vanished. I still jump at the sound of a certain type of beep, and I still hate the smell of Purell. But I proved that I could function despite the fear, and that realization is better than any corporate synergy retreat could ever offer. Thinking about retiring for real in the next 6 months and focusing on the NGO work. I don't need the money from consulting anymore, not since I stopped paying exorbitant city rent and focused on financial independence. I looked at the corporate itinerary I had printed out that night, the one with the aggressive highlights. It's still pinned to my corkboard, a reminder. Saturday afternoon, open discussion, breaking down barriers and finding authenticity. They wanted authenticity. Gave them authenticity, and it cost the compliance queen her job and gave me my life back. The funniest part? I'm moving out of apartment 3B next month. I found a great little place near the river, slightly cheaper and with a beautiful view. I'm selling the Honda Civic. I won't need it for a 3-hour emergency escape anymore. I'm sitting here now, 11:00 p.m. on a Friday night. My phone battery is at 98%. Drinking good, expensive wine, not lukewarm coffee, and I'm editing a policy draft for the NGO. It's not a perfect resolution. I still have the bad memories. I still have to work on the panic responses. But I'm free of Cheryl and the forced cheerfulness, and I have a literal degree hanging on my wall that proves I'm not just a cranky boomer who secretly believes she can fix everything. I fixed something important me. Anyway, that's the update. We'll update if I decide to officially retire, or if Kyle shows up again trying to use his new emotional range. TBH, I kinda hope he does.